Hello, friends. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. I'm Kirk Henderson. We are joined, as always, by Josh Bowe. We're both editors over at MavsMoneyball.com. Josh, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. That was a pretty crazy game. I'm trying to think of how we are going to talk about this game because I feel like there are a million things to talk about. Mavs fans are definitely mad because that was a pretty emotional game. I understand why, but that was, objectively, that was one of the better playoff games I've watched in a few years. Like, that was entertainment wise, that was wild game. Obviously it's bad that the Mavericks did not come out on the right end of it.
Your camera died. Yeah. Let's see here. I'm really trying to think about this because obviously, so the Mavericks lost 116 to 111. I think really the best way to go about the big element of this game is to sort of discuss it in halves, where you look at the Mavericks in the first half of the game, then you look at the Mavericks in the second half of the game. And the first quarter, the Mavericks came out and effectively got blitzed. The Clippers hit 8 of 11 from 3. And they scored a gajillion points in the first quarter. Where is my game log here? It was really rough. It was 39-16 after one. Now, the three-point shooting for the Clippers in the first quarter is something that you kind of got to live with because I felt that the Mavericks actually played them pretty well. A lot of the threes were contested threes, and I think as the advanced data comes out after this game, we'll see more and more of that. I mean, the Clippers ended up hitting, 18 threes in the game?
Yeah, 18 threes.
Yeah,
18 threes, yeah. How many of those were contested?
And that's a lot of points when you 54 points from the 3-point line. Correct? Am I doing that math right? Yeah, that sounds right.
You're asking the wrong person for math right now. I'm sorry.
It's okay. And so it's like when that happens in the first quarter and you're just sort of caught looking. The thing that I'm not understanding is this is the third first quarter in 3 games where the Mavericks looked to have no offensive answer for anything that the Clippers were doing. And that strikes me as concerning because as good as Jason Kidd has been making defensive adjustments throughout the season, the offensive answer often seems to be, we'll just go figure it out. They didn't get nearly as many lob attempts in this game. I think your point about Zubac not coming out and defending Luka quite so high played an element in that. But I would love to hear your thoughts on it. And so to only score 16 points in that first quarter is really pretty putrid. Now, we got to get this up front and out of the way. And I'm just going to say it. I don't really care who it pisses off. If Luka Doncic is going to shoot 27% from 3, the Mavericks might not win this series. Really wild take here because the man shoots a lot of threes. And in the first half, he was 0 for 7 from 3-pointer. And the shots were not close. It was really, really baffling to see. It was almost like watching rookie year Luka. We understand that the man has a knee injury right now, but I don't think that's why the shots are falling. Like there's not falling is the answer to the question. And he hit a big one in the fourth quarter, which was nice. We'll circle back to that, I think, as we talk about this some more. But in the first half and really in the first quarter, the Mavericks shot making just wasn't there. And it was just sort of frustrating to see,
Yeah. And, we could talk at the end of the day about all these adjustments, which we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the fourth quarter. We're going to talk about what happened down the stretch. I have to defend some takes I made on Twitter because I'm getting absolutely roasted right now.
Are you?
Yeah, because I don't think that the coaching was that. Not saying the coaching was good down the stretch, but I don't think it was as big as a failure as maybe some other Mavs games that we've watched. But I just wanted to say, we can talk about all that But if Luka's going to shoot 20, what is it? What are you shooting? 20? You said before we went
He's
live.
shooting
27% from
38.6 from the floor and 27.5% from three.
They're
You're
not going to win.
Winning if that's happening.
They're not. And if it, whatever the reason, if it is because he's injured and the knee is hurting him, if that's the reason, he's still it can be an excuse in terms of, okay, that's the reasoning for why it's happening. But now you have to do something else, so what are you going to do to compensate? If Luka's knee is hurting him so much that he cannot make threes, what are you going to do to get around that? Because
they did it in the second half.
Yeah, they did in the second half, which was just give Kyrie the ball. And
there was more to it than that, though, because
okay,
Luka, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. So the second quarter, things get so bleak in the second quarter. And just let me get this off my chest. I don't think this was a Jason Kidd game either. I'm not I don't want Jason Kidd to be the head coach of this team for another 5 years. He's probably going to be. ESPN's Tim McMahon put out an article today about the Mavericks that was really good. It was about the GM, it was about the structure of the roster. And in the article, 3/4 of the way down was talk about the likelihood of an extension from Kidd. And I just have to say this. I don't feel super comfortable giving my coach an extension if the team that he is coaching is down by 25 points or more twice in 4 games. Don't feel great about that. Sorry, probably not fair. Don't fucking care. I don't want to hear about Jason Kidd's coaching extension in the middle of a fucking playoff series. Let's win the series first, and then we can talk about that stuff. Okay, we'll come back but so the Mavericks get down by a gajillion points. I mean, I'm sitting there watching it with my kid, and he's like, what are we watching? Why are you watching this? Let's do something else. I mean, they were down by 31 points at the 5:43 mark of the quarter. Then what happens? I actually literally texted my friend Jay Kyle, man of the Ringer, and I said, what I assume is going to happen is Kyrie Irving is going to go absolutely bonkers because there's no pressure now. And the no pressure comment may be a little bit unfair, but when you're down by this many points, who cares what kind of shots that you're taking? Kyrie absolutely wheels them back into this game in the second quarter. They cut the lead to 19. It was 17 at the half, and it arguably could have been closer. The Mavericks played really, really nice to finish the second half. The third quarter comes out, and the Mavericks continue to punch, and they get the ball down, or they get the lead down to about 10 points. Josh Green comes in the game, and there's a wild sequence of a fast break. I'm trying to remember what the play ended up as, but Luka gets a fast break. Josh Green misses kind of a kick out 3, which he pump fakes for some reason. And then there's a wild fast break play where Luka gets the ball on the break. And I don't know why he doesn't give it up because he's not moving very well and gets stuck at the free throw line, and they end up with a bad shot. And then there's a series of missed dunks. There's just the Maverick momentum basically got killed once they brought it back to 10 points is the point that I'm trying to get at. That's in the third quarter. And so the Mavericks keep kind of working. They get it down to 2 points, and then the Clippers effectively explode to end the fourth quarter in what was going to be a preview of what would happen to the Mavericks the rest of the game, where let's see here. I'm scrolling through this to make sure I get a lot of the details right. But the Mavericks effectively in the game, or in the fourth quarter, down 4, which is pretty impressive after being down 17. That's a really great way to cut into the lead. The fourth quarter is pretty crazy. It really felt like the Mavericks lost the thread to open the fourth quarter because they get within 3 points, and then all of a sudden they're down 9. The Mavericks defense was just spent. And the key component, and something I think we're going to have to talk about a little bit later, is the Mavericks went uber small with Maxey at the 5. And if we're talking about fan consternation related to Jason Kidd, it was that Lively was no longer in the game. And Lively's just physical defense was a key component to them coming back in the third quarter. Kyrie and the Clippers effectively trade buckets. Derek Jones has a couple of huge makes in there. The Mavericks hang around. They tied at 100 points at 4:25 with the Kyrie Irving shot. And then they actually take the lead on a wild Kyrie Irving layup at 2:15 at 1. It was 104-105. But Paul George nails a corner step back three that was effectively behind the backboard. And James Harden at that point was taking advantage of Luka with 5 fouls and hit floater after floater after floater to effectively end the game for the Mavericks. It's a pretty tough way to lose this game. I don't understand some of well, how about this? I would like some of the decisions explained to me because I think they have good basketball reasons, but I'm not at the moment without watching some of them again in the fourth quarter entirely understanding what's happening.
Yeah. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, and it's of course Harden going nuts in the final moments of the fourth. That's the game. What did he have? He had, I'm looking it up right now. He scored 15 points in the fourth quarter on 6 of 8 shooting. All 6 buckets were 2-pointers. I'm pretty sure all 6 were in the paint or somewhere near the paint. I'm looking right now. Yes, all 6 were in the paint, floater range, outside of the restricted area. So this is tough because I actually think the Mavericks did try some things. And I understand no Lively at all. I don't know what the thought process was there. That's a very fair criticism.
Well, hold on.
I don't really have anything to offer on that.
Well, so the lineup with PJ and Maxey has been spectacular.
Very good.
Like, it's just, and so that's
and it's helped win them games 2 and 3 also.
Yes, and that's the reason. Like that's effectively the reason why Kid kept writing it. But I think that the question that I have is it very clearly stopped working with about 6 minutes left. The difference was Kyrie's shot making. And that kept them in the game. So I'm sort of wondering, they're targeting Luka. They did the nice thing where they were getting PJ on the switch in the fourth, but PJ was wildly overplaying Harden's hand, and Harden just went to the basket. Like he had and met no resistance. They never really sent doubles at him, which I think was probably the right move. But it's just when you get killed by that many floaters, that many times in a row, it looks like you got to try something else in hindsight.
Yes, I understand. And I'm not saying what I think my main point is not that the coaches are without criticism or without thinking that they can make some sort of adjustments. They absolutely can. Like you don't lose a playoff game without thinking that there's things you can do differently. I just meant it just didn't feel as egregious because they did try stuff, just didn't work. And I didn't think it was this dumb stuff to try. So really they tried, they tried Luka in isolation at first because I honestly think the Clippers have been at their best when Harden's been in the pick and roll. I think the Clippers have been really stymied whenever they try to go one-on-one, including against Luka. How many times did people share that stat of Luka in isolation against Harden, Kawhi, Paul George? I think it was in game 2 where they were like, 2 for 11 against Luka in isolation situations or when Luka was guarding the shot. Luka has played really good defense in isolation against all 3 of the stars. So I think the Mavericks thought, okay, let's trust Luka on here so that we don't have to send help because we really lose the thread on defense when we give up open threes and when we get into a rotation and kind of get into that blender. So I think that was the thought process. What didn't work was Luka had 5 fouls and he was not guarding. Mm-hmm. He had 5 fouls. And he was letting Harden go by him immediately without trying to pick up because he did not want to pick up the 6th foul. It was very obvious. Maybe you want to criticize something. Coaching staff should have been more proactive in realizing that earlier.
Because it really did happen the last 6 minutes of the quarter.
Yeah, they shouldn't have put Luka on him if they knew with 5 fouls he wasn't going to guard. But I'm guessing that's what they thought. They thought he would still guard because he had done it before. And he had 5 fouls, so he wasn't. So that was bad. They did change. They did. I think it was before Kyrie made the crazy layup to give the Mavericks the lead. They still had Luka on Harden, and they brought PJ Washington off of Terrence Mann to double him. When Terrence Mann was like in a weird, he was nowhere threatening. Mm-hmm. Like he was somewhere near like the block and the 3-point line. Like he wasn't even a threat. And PJ came out to double Harden, and the Clippers basically threw the ball away or got a bad. I can't remember what the result was, but they got a bad shot or a turnover. That was really smart, and that worked. And then then what happened when they came down the next time is they just got PJ into Harden right away. Now that's an adjustment. Now the weird thing is what I don't understand, and this is something that if they ask Kid, I don't know if he's going to give a good answer, but they're going to have to find an answer for this in Game 5. PJ was playing so up on Harden.
Mm-hmm.
PJ's a great defender. There's no way he can stay in front of Harden when you're playing in his hip pocket. Like Harden is too good of a player.
Former MVP. Like, what are we doing here?
So
like,
when
it's inviting it.
So when he gets by him, you have to anticipate if you're asking your defender to play that close up, why was the help so late? I almost wonder if they just thought Harden couldn't make floaters. Because the Mavericks defense has been predicated on, we're giving you nothing in the restricted area in the rim. We're going to give you some threes, and you're going to have to hit some floaters, which I think if you're playing the averages normally is a smart percentage-wise, but clearly it wasn't working in this game. Like Harden was in his bag. And so you probably needed to make another adjustment quicker and be like, okay, if we're going to have PJ guard him up so close, then we need that help to meet him at the free throw line, not at the rim, because he's just going to toss some floaters. Or they had to have PJ playing off of him and dare him to make threes. But I think what spooked the Mavericks in this series is Harden is making his threes.
Yep.
He hasn't been a great three-point shooter the last couple of seasons, but he's making his threes in this series.
And they're contested.
He was 4 of 5 today, 5 of 8 in game 3, 6 of 11 in game 1. Like he's making his threes. And I think that's maybe getting in the Mavericks' heads defensively a little bit, because I think if he was not making his threes and what he shot 38% on threes this season. So maybe they're just going historically, like because he shot for his career, he's 36.
They're not defending him with some of the with frankly the respect he deserves. That's my opinion.
I think they thought he was going to miss some of those floaters. I think that's what went into it. And I understand why that drives you crazy, because he did it, 6 times in a row, basically, to end the quarter. But I think the Mavericks were trying to play the odds and it burned them. It's not like he was getting uncontested restricted area layups, but he was getting uncontested floaters. Kirk, here's a stat for you. The Clippers for this game, 9 of 18 in the restricted area, 50%. Good for the Mavericks, right?
Yes.
They were 14 of 24 in the paint outside the restricted area, 58%. League average is 44. The Clippers basically took the shot that the Mavericks defense schematically wants to give and ate them up. They just ate them up. And I think you might have to
write on that.
Yeah. Do you write that off as a one-game thing, or do you say, hey, try to do that to us again in game 5?
Well, I suspect they do it for game 5, because the defense is what brung them here. And this is where I wanted to talk about something that Glenn mentioned in the chat that I think is worth it. The reffing in this game was so weird. And not not bad, weird. Yeah, it was inconsistent, because Luka picks up some BS fouls in the first quarter that effectively changed how he played the rest of the game. That's just a fact. But then in the third quarter, the Mavericks were playing smash mouth basketball, where I'm watching this going, how is that not a foul on Lively? Now, keep in mind, I don't fucking care. I want the Mavericks to win the basketball game. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm an impartial observer. But the foul calling in the third seemed to swing so far the other way. And it's just like the referees really lost control of elements of this game where they were missing really, really bad calls. There was one that got reversed where Zubac got fouled by PJ. Like PJ basically thwacked him across the chest and the ball goes out of bounds. And it's like, what is that ref looking at? And they couldn't overturn it because you can't overturn a non-call. It's just that sort of thing. And so that ended up evening out entirely. So the refs were effectively a non-fact, but it changed the feel of the game for both the Clippers and the Mavericks at various points. I was really confused. And that's the sort of thing where I think these Mavericks are really predicated on just getting fouls and then making free throws. And we got a couple people in the chat saying, come on, Mavericks, you have to hit your free throws. They missed, the Mavericks missed 5, which is fewer than I would have thought, but good Lord, it felt like some pretty terrible misses.
And they had a huge free throw advantage in this game.
Yeah.
They had 25 attempts to the Clippers 18. They made 20. The Clippers made 12.
Yep.
But it felt like the way the refs were refereeing this game that both fan bases are probably really pissed off at the referee.
Just kind of like it didn't matter.
It's inconsistent,
Yeah.
And what happens when it's inconsistent is that the players don't know what to do, right? Because if you call it hey, this is just going to be a rough game, we're not calling much.
Yep.
The players might still be mad, but they can adjust and be like, okay, so that's what this game's going to be like. When you go back and forth, the players kind of don't know how to settle into how the game's going.
And the main one that happens more often than not that that players get super pissed about is the hand on the hip.
Oh yes, that was so flip flop. Every different
every possession for both teams,
different.
it was like, what is this? Because it's like Josh Green got called for one where it was like, huh? And then Luka gets them. Luka doesn't get many of those, frankly, just because he lets the guy ride his hip. Like it's almost like it's a feature, not a bug. So he's usually happy with that. But anyway, that was just an odd kind of back and forth sequence. All right, so we're about halfway through our show now. If those of you who are here watching live, we appreciate you joining us. If you wouldn't mind hitting a like on the stream, I would greatly appreciate that. If you would also consider subscribing while you're down there. And this rarely happens after losses, but if any of you are at all interested in leaving a tip for Josh Bowe and I, we very much appreciate that. Like appear now, appear later says Josh's breakdowns keep me calm. Good stuff, man. Appreciate y'all. Let's go get the next two. Josh, yes, Josh is one of the best writers in the Mavericks scene. You guys should head over to Mavs Moneyball and read his Game 3 third quarter Kyrie outburst breakdown. It was really, really good stuff. And those of you who are listening on the audio stream, if you could consider subscribing to the show, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. We have fun here at Mavs Moneyball. I'm sorry, at Pod Maverick. And we're going to continue to have fun, as in when Josh and I are done with this show, I will host our secondary live show where if you have takes off, if you want to get some frustrations off your chest, or if you want to talk about something you really enjoyed, please feel free to hang out and you can come talk with me live. All right, we will be back after I insert some audio ads here for the audio listeners, and then Josh and I will pick it up where we left off. All right, so we've been a little grumpy, and I think rightfully so, but I do want to take a few minutes to really appreciate the 40-point outburst from Kyrie Irving.
Man,
just a really go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I just want to say it's because it's coming in a loss. I feel like playoff loss performances just get lost to time. And It's kind of a shame because this was a ridiculous game from him. Like just pulling rabbit out of hat type game. Like it was breathtaking. It was breathtaking. That's the best way I could describe it. It was a breathtaking performance.
So there's like 17 things about Kyrie's game I would like to talk about, but the one I'm going to talk about was the layup that put them up 105-104. There were three Clippers, and he hangs, he's in the middle of the lane, it's just like floating in the air and the ball goes up over the rim in. They cut to Mark Cuban, I think he's like 13 or 14. His son is staring at him with like a slack-jawed look. And then they look at each other and then they both just start laughing. And like, that's the appropriate response to that shot. It was really quite the series of plays from Kyrie down the stretch there. And really in parts of the whole second and third quarter, I was pretty impressed by him. I think that if you were to ask him, he had an uncharacteristic 7 turnovers, which I don't have much of an issue with because the Mavericks were pressing so hard down 31. At a certain point, you're going to turn the ball over. I suspect he is probably like, what the world? I'm the game's best ball handler. How did I lose? Like he had a few that were like, where it was like there was a glitch in the matrix and the ball just ended up in the Clippers' hands like that.
Did you see that one Norm Powell got in the fourth where he just like Kyrie had the ball, and then all of a sudden Norm Powell has it. Like I think
it's like what is going, and that's where the kind of smash mouth basketball in the paint was starting to kind of vex the Clippers. I'm sorry, the Mavericks against the Clippers, because you would see Luka and Kyrie drive, you feel like they would get hit a little bit, and then nothing, and then the Mavericks, you would watch James Harden drive, and this is just the truth, the Clippers have better 3-point shooters. There's more space for Harden to drive into. And the Mavericks have to close late, and then they foul at the point of release, not on the drive itself. So that's really where they ended up. You would like to see, I don't know. I wish what they would do, and really like it's Kyrie feels the game out. That's just the way he plays. I've gotten used to it. I really would love them to see, how like way back in the day when Kendrick Perkins was on the Thunder, they would like do a like a token post up for his big dumb ass to get him like involved in the game. I would love to see some absolute nonsense play to free Kyrie up for like a short jumper.
Absolutely, get him.
They just don't do that.
What do they got to do to get him going early? Like, is it a Luka thing? Is it a coaching thing? But I don't know what it is right now, but they got to figure it out.
Honestly,
I keep doing this.
It's everybody, because if Kyrie Irving wants the ball, he gets the ball. That's the thing. Like when I read the comments,
enough stature, like
and it's like when I read the comments and everybody's like, Luka needs to bid. It's like, look, like if Kyrie wants a fucking basketball, he goes and gets it. I just want him to go get it earlier is all I'm necessarily saying. So it's really something. What else? Another kind of, kind of working our way through it. I was briefly terrified by Derrick Jones Jr. grabbing his groin. It can't really be understated how valuable he's been to the Mavericks this series, which is really shocking to me. He finished with 14 points and 7 rebounds. I thought he hurt his groin, but maybe he was just kicked in the nuts really hard. Is that what happened?
I think so. Idea. And then he was awesome after that, by the way. He made
awesome
shots. That's a shame.
He was 2 or 3 from distance, and I think they were both in the second half.
Yeah, he had 14 points. Man, it feels bad to waste a 14-point Derrick Jones Jr. game.
Yeah, I love these. I love these people like this yokel in the chat. Luka has the ball, dum dums. Your favorite player isn't getting the ball. Kiss my ass. Watch a basketball game for once in your life.
I mean, I understand part of that, but Kyrie had 3 shots in the first quarter and 2 turnovers. So like he had the ball a little bit. He just
didn't play well. None of the Mavericks made anything.
Yeah, he just didn't play well.
I mean, again, these afternoon games are part of it, but the Clippers hadn't won an afternoon game all year. Well, no, our friend Lucas actually corrected us that they'd won 1, but they were down double digits in every afternoon game of the year.
Yeah, so that's a weird. Yeah, I think. What do you want to make of? I don't know if you want to pivot. Sorry, I'm just kind of pivoting.
It's fine. But this is a loss. You're kind of thought like we're going all over the place on purpose.
The Gafford Lively stuff. Obviously, I think everyone wants more Lively after what he showed. But is Gafford like? Do they need to start Lively and maybe push Gafford to the Phantom Zone here? He's been ineffective in 3 of the 4 games.
Maybe, but I don't think they will because I think they believe in the process more than anything else because it's gotten good results.
But if you love that PJ Maxey lineup so much and it is playing well enough to justify how much you love it, you're splitting like there's not a lot of minutes for 2 more big men.
You got it. You got to find a few more minutes for Lively. I think that's the answer there because Lively is a lot more like he's frankly he's bigger.
Yes, he's significantly longer than.
And I know a lot of people don't realize. Like I was with some friends the other night, and people were like, "Daniel Gafford's 6'9", and I'm like, "Yeah, he plays huge." But then you play against an actual 7-footer, and it's like, here's the difference. Like it's just it's a real thing. So I would like to see a few more minutes for Lively. I just while I'm thinking about cool plays, how amazing was that jumping bounce pass from Kyrie to Lively for a dunk? That might have been my favorite play of the game.
Yeah, they had great chemistry.
Well, it's so crazy because the Mavericks have these rim runners and they have 2 guys who have the ability to throw great lobs. So,
but with Lively, you're just the length and the wings. Like, this is no discredit to Gafford. I don't know what Daniel Gafford. How about I look up Daniel Gafford's wingspan real quick because I'm just curious.
He's just getting he didn't get eaten alive too bad by Zoo this game, but it was still one of those things where you're watching him and he had 19 ineffective minutes with 2 turnovers. Like that can't happen.
So Gafford's wingspan is 7'2", Lively's is 7'5", which is I keep forgetting how long it is. But that's 3 inches. That makes a difference if you're guarding someone shooting something in the paint. You know what I mean? Like 3 extra inches to contest a shot in the paint. It sounds kind of stupid, but we're past. This is what's so crazy about regular season basketball and playoff basketball. 82 games regular season is so long, and teams, the focus when you're playing different games and you're not practicing, it's just a different game. And you can write off small sample size across 82 games, but a 7-game series, it's like, guys, we can't, you can't write that off. You can't write off small sample size when every single one of these games feels life or death. So I think, I don't know if they're going to do it, but I would start Lively and I would make Lively play somewhere between 20 to 28 minutes. And you're going to go to your PJ Maxey lineup and then you give Gafford whatever's left after that. I don't know if they're going to do it, but I think that's the move.
Yeah. I mean, And really, it's funny. Like, I'm not necessarily defending any Luka minutes here because I am astronomically frustrated with some of his decision making. Like, you sent a message midway through the third quarter, maybe, where you're like essentially asking Luka threw a really lazy turnover that Russell Westbrook intercepted off of. It was like left side of the floor. He's trying to get it to the right side. And it just like kind of it was a soft pass that Westbrook comes around to, and it was to the backside corner. Westbrook comes around and just like grabs the ball. And you said something in our Slack that effectively that Luka was embracing the ice coverage and he was fine getting sealed baseline. And I don't understand a lot of his decision making. Like, it's hard to categorize because we don't really know how hurt he is. I think his knee is bothering him, but I also think he's in his own head. I mean, I made a joke on Twitter that I think his 4-month-old is going through a sleep regression because he's making decisions like a man who is like just a step behind, and like that's the hallmark of Luka's game is being a step ahead. So it's really confusing to watch. And yes, I know, guys, he ended up with 10 assists. I'm not an idiot, but there's just something to his play style lately where he's missing bunnies. He's getting all the way into the paint and not taking shot. Like Zubac threw his shit back at him on a drive from the left side. That never happens. His timing is atrocious right now. And you know, if we're looking at the beginning and the end offensively, the Mavericks just need him to play better. There's just no other way around it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think credit, if you know, before Slow Hoops fan goes nuts on me, I think credit to Luka that he is doing just enough stuff outside of his shooting to lift his minutes afloat. Because if you would have told either of us before this series, hey, through 4 games, Luka's going to be shooting 38%, 27% from 3, we'd be like, oh, sweep or Mavs are down 3-1, right? Like there's no way I think we would have believed the Mavericks would be in a 2-2 series at best. So he has passed the ball well, mostly. His defense has held up mostly outside of some bad possessions here or there. So he's doing some stuff outside of shooting to keep the Mavericks in these games. But at the end of the day, he does need to make these shots. And it's everything you said. The timing is weird. Like I said in our Slack, and you mentioned, he's letting teams ice him in the pick and roll, which icing is where the pick and roll shades you to go baseline and toward the corner instead of giving up the middle. And like he's dribbling into the corner into these help coverages, and he doesn't have a shot, and there's not really an easy pass. And he's like normal Luka would be like, I'm getting around. Like he would maybe snake back around toward the middle. Like he's just he's letting the defense dictate terms, which is usually the opposite. Usually it's Luka that is dictating the terms. I think the biggest thing in terms of what he can change, and it's going to be tough because this is the elephant in the room. This year was his lowest rim rate of his NBA career. He got to the rim the lowest percentage of shots at any point, rookie year, second year, any other season. He's been dominating this season because he put up the best 3-point shooting season of his career. Yeah. So to be like, okay, Luka, now it's the playoffs where it's really hard. It's even harder than the 82-game regular season. Go get to the rim. That's tough when he's already shown that he hasn't been able to get to the rim as much as he used to for a variety of reasons.
Well, and I think we'll talk about the why he hasn't been able to get to the rim thing. And a lot of people have takes on it. There was a Clippers fan who I think made a pretty fair comment earlier. He said Luka's knee is always hurt against the Clippers, and that made me laugh. I do think there's something to that. I mean, it's a long season, and these guys come into it a little bit banged up. Frenemy and frankly becoming outright enemy of the chat, my friend Matt Moore made a dumbass comment, which, you know, thus I repeat myself. Love you, Matt. About how like Luka didn't hurt his knee. And what Luka did in game 1, for anybody who doesn't really seem to know what he did, he slammed his knee into the ground. Like absolutely. So I'm pretty sure he has like one of those like nasty bone bruises on the top of your knee that just isn't going to go away. So he has to wear those pads, and it's not going to get any better. This is going to be a thing, you know, the whole time. It's just sort of the nature of watching Luka play right now. Just sort of wanted to get that off my chest because I think it was like both kind of a fair criticism, but also something that is worth paying attention to.
It's not going away.
I mean, I don't see where the
he's gotta. Go ahead.
Luka made the adjustment in the second half where he stopped taking shitty threes. And that changed, and not like shitty threes. Like the three ball was a good foot short. I bet he's connected on long twos at a higher rate than he did in the regular season against the Clippers, while shooting well under his 3-point percentage so far. And that's just truly baffling to me. Westbrook he hit one over Westbrook where it's like, I hate that shot. It's just not a good percentage shot, but Luka's crushing it. And if the Mavericks, if he doesn't have it, then they need to figure out more stuff that got going in the third quarter, which, yeah, some of it was giving it to Kyrie and getting out of the way. But there was a give and go between Kyrie and Luka for a layup. They can do stuff like this. They just don't.
Where have all the Kyrie Luka screening actions gone? They were doing that. I swear to God, they were doing that in the last week. Where's Kyrie setting screens? Remember that?
Kyrie on a roll is a horror show for defenses.
Where's Luka setting screens? He was doing that. The last week of the season.
Luka doesn't really set them the way he ought to.
They were doing stuff in the last month of the regular season where I was like, this is different. And it's kind of not happened. They've been relying more on hero ball. So they got to do that. They got to have Luka screening Luka's man. They got to have Luka screening for Kyrie. Now, maybe with his knee, they just don't want Luka setting screens because that just invites contact that they're maybe trying to avoid. So maybe that's off the table. But, I mean, they need to try to do that if they can. The other thing that he got better in the second half is he has to go to the rim in the pick and roll. And he has to get there. He just has to.
He can. He just stops.
Look, how many times has he passed at the rim? He puts
a hard pivot and then he stops.
Yeah, he needs to stop passing to shooters at the 3-point line when he's at the rim. He needs to put up those shots. He needs to press Zubac and go around him in the pick and roll when Zubac jumps out at him. If he can't do that because he's physically limited, then I don't know what you do. You got to maybe run some Kyrie, have him run off a Kyrie screen or something that's going to be trouble. But he has to be able to do that. He can't pass at the rim. He's too good at the rim. Dude, he shot 73% in the restricted area this season. He's too good at the rim to be passing out as much as he is. And I know he's a pass first guy. And I know that's usually how the Mavericks are at their best when he's beating teams with his pass. And that's what the Clippers are kind of trying to take away because they don't want Dante Exum and Josh Green and PJ Washington and Maxi Kleber to get all these open shots. So there's got to be a balance. He definitely wants to pass because he wants to get his guys involved, but he's got to be able to take some of those shots at the rim when he gets there in the pick and roll.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, 2 quick comments. We got a tip from Doe, longtime listener to the show. He said, we made many mistakes, and we were let Harden run the same play, and he made 5 out of 6 layups. We should have at least switched to Derek Jones Jr. or double Harden or force someone else to beat us. I don't really want that's actually an interesting discussion. I don't really want I don't mind not doubling Harden the more I think about it. The Clippers are deadly 3-point shooters. They're just going to have to figure out something the late switch to PJJ was good. Maybe some late granted, they're not going to ISO ball the whole time. That fourth quarter was grounding out the clock. So there's a lot of things I think the Mavericks may try, but what I'm just sort of confused about is that they didn't seem to realize that their bread and butter wasn't working. That's the part that I'm alarmed at because it didn't not work for most of the fourth quarter. I probably double negative. But what they tried didn't work for the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And they didn't recognize that, and that's a little confusing to me. Thanks, Del, for that tip. Really appreciate it. Zachary Horge says Paul George and Harden are not combining for 60 again in the Mavs in Game 6. It's a pretty bold proclamation. I think the Clippers basically need that to win. One thing we haven't discussed at all was Paul George becoming Michael Jordan for a half.
And that shot he made in the fourth quarter from the corner against Derek Jones Jr., it's an all-time shot. I mean, not all-time historically, but just difficulty. That was crazy. They were down 2. I think that shot kind of took the air out of a lot of what the Mavericks were doing. Obviously, they had opportunities to get around it, but that was, holy cow, that was a crazy shot.
I got one of my friends in the chat who is an actual basketball coach. I'm gonna have to text him and call him after the game because he says lively out of the game is the issue. He kind of agrees with us. Oh man, this is just one of those losses you're going to stew with. The Mavericks have 2 days off before they head back out to Los Angeles, and they play the late game, which is effectively set to ruin my week because I don't really do very well after these 10 p.m. start games. That'll be pretty fun though. And then they play game 6 because it's 2-2. They play game 6 on Friday, which is the late game as well. At least they'll be back in Dallas in 6, so maybe not. But the ESPN scheduling of it all, like this is, I think, other than the Knicks Sixers series, I think this is the series that has the most interesting casual observations going on, because a lot of the other series are either not very good stylistically or they're just awful. There's really no other way to put it. Though, did you see Jamal Murray got hurt and is out, I think, for game 5.
Whoa, really?
That could really swing things in the Lakers thing.
That explains his playoffs. He's been awful. Besides that game winner, that makes sense. Can I wanted to talk about 2 more things. I know we're winding down. I want your thoughts on. So, Kid pulled the ripcord on basically what we were talking about with the minute squeeze. He did not play. He pulled the ripcord on Exum. And he pulled the ripcord on Josh Green. Green 13 minutes, Exum 2 minutes. I don't think either of those guys played in the second half. I don't think either of them played toward the end of the first. I think he took them out sometime toward the end of the first half, and they didn't play again. I don't think. He's lost faith in basically.
Exum has made 1 shot this series, so he's not wrong to lose faith.
Yeah, I wouldn't say wrong. I just noted. I think that's.
I'm really surprised. I would have figured Exum would be the guy to nut up. We actually ran a poll on the Mavs Moneyball website, and 49% of respondents thought between Maxey, Derek Jones Jr., and Exum that Exum was going to be the one to step up and have a big series. And Exum he's gone away. He's not gotten many shot attempts, but his shot attempts are good and he's not hitting them. And when you're not hitting your shots and you're also not particularly good on defense, Kid is going to go away from you. The Josh Green thing is a little interesting for me. We are traditionally a Josh Green frustration zone because we don't particularly love him as a player, but you have to admit, even if as Josh Green haters in games 2 and 3, he's pretty helpful. He helped mix things up in a certain way. And I think that's actually the problem. Josh Green is a great mix, like throw the dice guy. But if he has a role where he's to come in and he's to guard guy X, guy Y, he sucks. He is not a good point of attack defender. I don't care what you tell me. He's not good at it. And if you're not going to hit corner threes, then you're not scoring the points that you're making up. Whereas when he's in kind of a frenetic zone and can come in for 2 to 3 minute bursts, I think he's a lot more effective. I don't like regular rotation minutes for him at this point in his career. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I mean, you saw why in this game. I mean, he's kind of like the trick or treat player. Like you put him in, and if he's making an impact with his athletic chaos, then you ride it. And then I think Kid is smartly when it's not working, he's like, all right, see ya.
I like this is reductive because again, he hurt his foot against I'm sorry, ads are playing on my computer here. He hurt his foot against the Thunder. Wasn't that the right game?
Yeah, he hurt his ankle.
Hurt his ankle against the Thunder way back in March 14th. He hit 1 3 in that game. Since then, he has hit 1 3 in the regular season and 1 3 in the postseason. Now, we're not talking a lot of volume. He's only taken 6 threes in the postseason, and he finished the regular season taking 11. So he's 2 of his last 11. If I'm doing that math correct. No. He's 2 of his last 17 from 3 or 16. That's not going to cut it is the bottom line here. Two of you're just, I trust Josh Green. I really do. I want him to keep getting the looks, but I think unless he hits one of those 2 early, he's just not going to be very effective.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if they do start Lively, they've basically got maybe 4 to 5 guys that they're consistently relying on right now that they feel like can be productive. They don't really have a bench. Norm Powell came in and got 11 points, hit 3 of 5 threes. Plumlee was good in this game. Shockingly, he wasn't great the last game. And then the other thing I want to mention, Russell Westbrook, shout out to him because he
very bounce back game for him.
His fourth quarter was so smart because the Mavericks correctly were we're not guarding you. You cannot make anything. And he had, what did he have? So they doubled off him in the fourth. He flashed, instead of just standing at 3-point line, he flashed to the paint and basically got made a perfect lob to Plumlee for a dunk. And then the other time that they left him wide open, he caught the ball near the free throw line. He cuts baseline and gets a layup. And this is when the Mavs start, storming back. If he just hangs around the 3-point line, the Clippers probably are out 4 points, and who knows where this game goes. So, credit to him for being smart and manipulating the space that the Mavericks were giving him. Because the Mavericks, the Mavericks didn't boof that defensively. You're supposed to do. Westbrook just did what he was supposed to do in response. So, but they need some bench pop. They don't have a guy coming off the bench right now. They can get them double-digit points. So with Luka struggling, I feel like, man, the offense, it's just all Luka, Kyrie right now.
Oh, the fact that they nearly had a chance to win a game in which the Clippers shot 54% from the floor and 62% from three is pretty ridiculous.
It was
Luka make a shot. I told Josh before we came on the air, if Luka shoots 33% from three for the series, this series is a sweep.
Yeah.
So
it's not.
What are you gonna do? Okay, hang around if you want to talk in the after show. I'll be posting the link here shortly. Josh is going to go do some editing, I think, for MavsMoneyball.com. Yes. Thank you so much for hanging out, guys. We will be right back. And for those of you listening on the podcast stream or on the audio stream, the Mavs group therapy will get posted sometime Monday afternoon. Everyone, have a great start to your week, and go Mavs. All right, friends and enemies, welcome to Group Therapy Live. This is Pod Mavericks post-game coach session. I'm Kirk Henderson, editor-in-chief over at MavsMoneyball.com. You just heard Josh Bowe and I give a relatively stable sort of recapping of the Mavs losing to the Clippers. Now is time for the unhinged part of the show, if that's how you're feeling. I see two folks already waiting to talk to the show here. If you haven't ever been a part of the show before, I posted a link to a application, StreamYard. And what you do is if you're in front of your computer, or even with your phone, all you really need to do is click on that link. You'll be taken to a waiting room where I will bring you up and we can talk about a little basketball if that's something you are at all interested in. We got the regulars that I normally have come in here that really love to give their takes. We have two people driving. That shows how fucking insane all of us are feeling right now. Shout out to my man Henry, who's leaving a tip. He says, I want to call in, but I'm still at work. Henry, we appreciate you for joining the show. Henry always has the best avatars. All right, so we're going to kick to my friend Chris, who is experiencing, I'm sure, a long drive home. I think he lives 3 hours away from Dallas, and yet he comes to so many home games. I am really in awe of his dedication. Chris, welcome to the show. What's up?
Hey, can you hear me? You can. Oh, okay, good. Let me set this down here real quick.
This is so insane if you're watching on YouTube. All right, so what do you think, Chris?
I can barely see how fast I'm driving right now, but it's okay. No, I'm on cruise control. I'm good. So game 3 was awesome. Sorry, I wasn't in the I've been sick lately, so my voice is kind of messed up, and plus I was yelling at the game. Okay, now game 4, dude, all range of emotions. It's just crazy how, man, down by 31, and we get to a point where we're up 2 points, and it's just like we just cannot hold on to this lead. I mean, am I mad about the first half? Like, were most of those threes that Paul George and Harden made, you think that they were really contested? I mean, there were times Paul George was just wide open. I mean, I don't know if they were running a zone or what, but I don't know. Some did look like they were contested. They were just really tough shots. I mean,
So I've seen some early advanced stats on this, and I'll get more as the game goes along. I'm going to mute you real quick. Sorry, I'll unmute you whenever it's time. I basically what ends up happening is early looks at the data. The Mavericks contested most of the Clippers 3-point shots pretty good. Now you do give some open threes, but the Mavericks essentially are deciding to pack the paint in a real way. So that is a big element of what was happening. So I do know what you mean on a couple of the early Paul George ones, but he also hit some incredible shots.
Yeah. It's I don't even know if I was mad or anything, but it's very, very, very disappointing that, oh man, Paul George did hit that tough shot at the end. I mean, what are you going to do? Like, they were hitting some most ridiculous shots, but like you said, Kyrie Irving was willing us into this game. I mean, we know Luka's hurt right now, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to be playing Kawhi the rest of the series.
He's probably done. Yeah, I would suspect he's done for the series.
And they're matching up better against us. Or I don't even know if this is really who they are. Like, does Harden and Paul George really hit these kind of threes in the regular season? I don't remember seeing the Clippers play like this. Like, I mean,
the Clippers are an unbelievable 3-point shooting team. Like, just as a team, they have so many guys who are good at these shots. Now, Paul George is a all, he's a all NBA level player. James Harden is going to the NBA Hall of Fame. So if you're asking, like, are they going to continue to hit big shots? I think the answer is you can't rely on them. Necessarily think, let's just go look at the stats right now. I don't necessarily think James Harden is going to go 4 for 5 from 3, but frankly, his threes have looked so good. He should probably be taking more. Paul George was 7 of 10. Again, like I think you trust your process, and as mad as I do get at Kidd, I don't necessarily lay this at his feet. I understand why they kept going with the same defensive lineup that played down the stretch. I just wish at a certain point when they were noticing that they weren't actually getting stops, that they would have gone to something else. Because Kyrie's shot making in the fourth quarter and it was what kept it close, not their defense.
And lastly, do you feel like they probably I know that they were going small ball because they were trying to guard the 3 towards the end, but do you feel like they should have had at least Lively in there just for? I mean, those Harden floaters were killing us, dude. Like,
they were, but that's what I mean. That's what I mean. So this defensive lineup with PJ at the 4 and Maxey at the 5 is what has brought them home for several stretches of the post trade deadline season. The numbers on it are fantastic. So that's why the Kid kept writing it. That's why, and that's also specifically why I'm saying I wish, around minute 8, whenever things started going awry in the fourth quarter, I really wish the Mavericks would have switched to something else by like minute 6 or minute 4, but they really did not deviate from their plan at all. And I wonder what the tape will show on that, because I think giving James Harden the floater is a stupid game plan.
Yeah. Hey, one last thing. It was funny. Me and all these crazy fans, we were just like heckling Ballmer. He was down there squirming and stuff. Like, he had wipes for days, man. It's just crazy. You could tell, like, Ballmer was nervous, dude. I was like, I saw that last time, Game 6 of 2021. Like, he's being so. I mean, okay, he's a passionate owner. I get it. He's like Mark Cuban, but it's just like he's all. Dude, 2012 Thunder, 2016 Thunder, like Harden and Westbrook. I can't stand them, and I mean, this Clipper rivalry thing, or whatever, if you want to call it a rivalry or not, we can't lose this damn series, man. Like, I can't take it losing 3 series to the Clippers and losing against Harden and Westbrook once again. I know we beat them in 2011. We won the championship, but dude, I can't stand them, man. Like, I can't. No, we have to win this series, and we're gonna win this series. They're gonna come back next game pissed off, just like Game 2, and we're gonna bring this one home on Game 6. We're gonna win this series. Mavs in 6. Let's go.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, thanks, Kirk.
I removed myself from the stage. Brian, what's going on, man?
Man, just driving home from watching the game with a bunch of our friends.
I wish I could have joined you. Maybe they would have won.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? I walked in the bar, and that was when the comeback started. Towards the end of the second half.
So if you were there on time, the Mavericks would have won. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, there. Look, so you know what's funny? So I walked in. They started coming back. I think Jazz said something that might have jinxed it, and
Oh
I said,
no.
you know what? Let's reset the luck. And so I walked out, walked back to my car, walked back in, just to make sure that we were going to get this thing closed. And we did eventually end up taking a 1-point lead. You know,
Yeah.
it's a bummer that they came out flat the way that they did. I'm surprised they didn't come out of halftime flat because I
Me too.
feel that in my bones because you know how this team is.
Well, sure, they're down by 31 points. Like at a certain point, you expect the juice to leave the team. And I mentioned, I don't know if you were in the first show, but there was a sequence where Josh Green shot a contested corner three that was buns, and then Luka slowed a fast break at the elbow where they didn't get a good shot. And it's like those two things really killed the momentum.
Well, yeah. So that was one of the things that, like, we were in the bar and I was talking about this. I was like, dude, we can't, if we want to get back in this game, want to have a real chance of winning it. We can't keep running our early offense even through Luka because he just doesn't move fast enough. And he's not like, you know how I want to say the last 15 games of the season, he was basically starting every possession, like every defensive possession that we closed with a rebound. He would get the ball and he was immediately like basically traveling, looking to hit that hit ahead pass. And he's doing that every single time down anymore. He's walking the ball up. He's falling back into old habits where he's walking the ball up. We're not getting into our sets until there's like 14, 15 seconds left on the clock. We're not really attacking. I tweeted, PJ Washington was the first person to see Mason Plumlee standing in the paint in the clutch and say, oh, that's food. I'm not going to give the ball to a guard. I'm going to go right at him because he can't stop me. And that was the first time that I saw anyone do that in like the 3 minutes that Mason Plumlee had been on the court. The fact that they allowed Mason Plumlee to have any kind of real impact at all with that super lucky putback and a couple defensive shots was honestly disgraceful. I'm fine up that kid closed the game. But getting in the way is disgraceful. He was the only person offering any resistance at the time. He was the only person challenging those James Harden.
Brian, we're losing you.
We could really like.
All right. We're going to have to boot Brian for a little bit.
Well,
Turn on. It's okay. It's okay. This is what happens when you drive and podcast like a madman. Come back a little later once you get home. We want you to drive safe. All right. Yeah. Rolex says get home safe first. He's right about that. All right. We're going to go to Mr. Dang. Doe, what's going on?
Hey, Kurt. How you doing, man? I just got back from the game. And if you kind of look and see all the advantages we have, okay? Number one, we match up way better with Zubac, with Lively, just as you pointed out, okay? And then we also have the size advantage without them having Kawhi in the lineup. So why aren't we taking advantage of the four things that I think that we're great at? Number one, we run the ball as soon as we can. And like the last user said, we can't run the ball through Luka if we're doing that. There were many fast breaks when we were watching that the game develop that Luka slowed down the fast break. I'm like, what are y'all doing here? You know, Lively's down the court before Zubac is by like about 6 steps. You should be throwing that ball ahead, you know? Yeah. And then we're a lot younger than them and more athletic and bigger. Why aren't we taking advantage of pressing the ball? You know, if we get in our offensive set sooner, we have a better probability of attacking the rim. If you look at the third quarter, when I said to the guy on the bottom, we should not be taking any threes unless we touch the paint. All our successful shots, except for 3 of Kyrie's shots, were attacking the rim. We shot over 70% from the paint in the third and most of the fourth quarter. When we got away from that is when we started fumbling the ball, doing stupid shit, playing outside in instead of inside out. And let's say Luka can't physically do it, okay? So we post him up in the low block, you know? We run screens like you're saying with Kyrie and Luka on the same side and let Luka pound them down in the lane. And if that doesn't work, then we split it out. And I'm proposing that Luka even gets out of the game because if he can't play defense either, I mean, there were some bad possessions with him in the third quarter where he was playing Ole defense.
Yeah.
You know?
No, he's moving. He's not moving right. And also, I think he was very worried about foul trouble.
So the thing is, too, it's just like Kawhi. If Kawhi is a liability to you, you don't put him in the game. If Luka is a liability, then you take him out of the game.
And I think the Mavericks aren't structured for that because after Kyrie, they don't have anybody else who can dribble. They don't have anybody else who can dribble. And
I would have rather played Exum and see what I roll my dice, because the madness is keep on doing the same thing with Jason Kidd. And it's just like you said, in that fourth quarter when things turn and I made a comment about it, okay, so we had Russell Westbrook in the game. We had Maxey covering Russell. Why wouldn't Maxey come over and just double on Harden and let, Westbrook made 2 good plays out of how many? Yeah. I would have doubled. I would have switched DJJ on Harden. I would have given him some kind of different look.
See, in Kidd's post-game comments, look, he's got to speak to the media. He's got to speak. It's like literal a thing he has to do. But all of Kidd's post-game quotes really fucking suck right now. I don't know if anybody's seen any of them because they belie kind of a misunderstanding of how they were getting beat. And I really get some tape and they figure it out because the defense was bad. And that's more or less why they lost the game. The offense, the Mavericks offense happens enough. And Salam asks in the chat, what did some of what Kidd have to say? He said Kidd said he chose to close with Maxey because of his ability to space the floor. You notice how many times Maxey shot the ball in the fourth quarter. Kidd on finding positives within the comeback, quote, just understanding we don't quit. We won't quit. We're going to play for 48 minutes. This game was just like game 1. And then he said Kidd would rather live with Harden 2s than his step back 3s. And like that's the sort of thing that I fundamentally don't like. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's a great and that's
100% a shot for him.
But it's the sort of thing that mainly speaks to like when you ask a guy post game before he's been allowed to look at tape, and I don't want to hold it over him too much, but like that's a bad quote to me. That's a bad.
But the
quote.
thing is, we know Luka hasn't been playing well all 3 games, and he never made an adjustment, for Luka in any way. Whether
their offense certainly hasn't adjusted. They don't do anything different.
So that's the whole thing that gets me is he never prepares. I mean, we've had 3 games to try to get Luka or to try to make an adjustment where we run the ball more through Kyrie, and we haven't been doing it. And we did it finally in the third quarter. And also, if you look at the third quarter, we were successful too because Lively played the majority of the game. Mm-hmm. We pushed him off the 3-point line and we funneled it in off the 3-point line into our interior defense. And that's what made us successful in the second and third game. Yep. And we didn't do the same thing. I'm like, I'm not going to let the best guys beat me ever. As a coach, as a player, you don't let the other team's hot player stay hot all the time without changing something about the strategy. Yeah. I mean, if you had our prior coach, do you think he would let this happen? Any of our prior coaches, they wouldn't have allowed us to keep on going to the madhouse the same way, throwing out the same defense, throwing out the same rotations.
I really don't know. To be
Carlisle would not have done the same thing. I don't think.
But I think that's where I've mentioned this before. I'm just kind of repeating myself, and that's okay. I sort of think Kyrie's shot making was disguising how good was disguising how bad the Clippers defense was, or I'm sorry, the Mavericks defense was during that stretch because Kyrie and Harden were exchanging shot for shot until it was like 100. The Kyrie ties it up, and then it got and then he hits it. It just sort of the shot making disguised how porous elements of the Mavericks defense was to me. So, well, hey man, I'm glad you got to go to that game. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, but I mean,
are you going to go to game 6?
Like I said, I don't have faith for the adjustments that need to be made.
I hear you. I hear you.
Kid.
All right. Well, let's.
Even last game. Thanks, Kurt. Bye.
Hey, no, you're the man. I can tell my wife's already annoyed with me. She came in here and was like right over there and just gave me a look. Those, no, man, it's fine. You're the best. Talk soon. All right, I'm going to try to fly through some folks, but I'm going to go back to Brian because Brian didn't crash his car. Welcome back. You're live. You want to finish on your show?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh, of course. Yeah, you look good now.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, basically what I'll just reply to the two things that Kid said that I just heard, which is pretty funny. One, you can't play 48 minutes when you get blown out by 30 in one quarter, right?
Sure.
And what was the second thing? It was something about God. I forget. I can't even remember. Regardless, all I'll say is this: Lively seeing no minutes in the fourth, that didn't really sit well with me. PJ point of attack on Harden to close the game, that didn't really sit well when Derek.
Yeah, but see, I like the switch. What would you have done differently? That's the thing where it's like when you go that small, you're either going to double. Like what I didn't like, and Josh mentioned this, I didn't like how PJ was up in his pocket because that's essentially inviting Harden to go shoot a floater.
Well, I think that's why you don't close with PJ as point of attack. Derek Jones Jr., if he was going to do that, he had the foot speed to recover if James got the step on him.
Okay.
Why we made the run to come back into the game when Derek Jones Jr. was on point of attack and PJ was in the corner playing low man where he could rotate over and be a good help defender. I thought that's what he should have been doing to close the game. I don't know why we made the switch to him being like, he's a big, strong body, sure, but being a strong body in front of Harden doesn't matter if he can get his shoulder by you.
Yep.
And we saw it.
It's just like Luka.
And Luka over and over. Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was rough to close. The first quarter was a travesty, and Paul George hit some incredible shots. He wasn't going to be terrible all series.
No.
What happened in that first quarter? Like Terrence Mann hit 2 threes from the corner, which is a shot that I was saying in real time. We're going to live with that shot every single time he takes it. And lo and behold, he didn't hit one in the last 3 quarters. So I'm fine with that. But he hit 2 in the first quarter. Paul George hit everything. Russ came in, gave them good energy. Paul George made an incredible shot to close the game. That step back in the corner at the end of the game.
Gnarly.
Yeah, and like when you're getting like that, and that was the other thing. Living with Harden 2s instead of 3s, brother, you gave up both. He had like 2 threes in the first quarter.
Yeah,
like it's rough, but I don't think the game is going to go like that on either side going forward. Like I don't see that as being sustainable. People will look back to what happened in game 1, different circumstances, kind of different teams. Considering Luka like now is on 1.35 legs, right? So we're gonna have to figure out how to navigate that, and Kid is going to have some tough conversations about when Luka can and can't be in the game for a defensive position. But we got 2 days for him to rest. We'll get to it when we get to it. I'm still confident we're gonna win this in 6. So let's just get to it.
All right, man. Thanks. Drive safe. Talk soon.
Yes, sir.
All right. Those of you who are still watching live on the stream, very much appreciate you hanging in here. If you could do me a favor and consider going down and hitting the like button, subscribe while you're down there. Got a few games left in this season, hopefully. Coming up next is Isaac. Isaac, welcome to the show. What's going on?
Hey, Kirk, can you hear me okay?
I can. You sound great.
Awesome. So first off, the last time I joined, I didn't hear the housekeeping that you were single dadding. And I just want to say I respect the grind. I wouldn't have joined that late if I had known.
No, it's all good, man. This is what I do.
For the last 2 days, my wife's been out of town working. So I've had all 3 kids to myself, so I respect it. So just wanted to say that.
So you look like how Luka looked, where you're just kind of like, ugh.
So yeah, that's pretty accurate. I'm like, I'm tired of watching the Mavs at 3:30. I live in South Carolina. I'm tired of watching them in the afternoon, especially on a weekend because I drink too much beer for them to play like this. And at the end of the game, I'm here, and that's why I come to you guys to try to not hate myself by the end of the night.
Well, I mean, then that's really, like, in all honesty, Isaac, it's funny you say that. Like, that's really the main reason I started doing these way back when I was doing the Spotify Live, is because it's like you spend time on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, it kind of starts to become pervasively toxic. And I kind of hate that phrase, but it's like, because you're not talking to somebody, the temperature increases. So people get really mad. So it's like, I really wish, more people who like disagree with me would come up and kind of like yell at me on here, because it's a little more of like a human. You ultimately understand it like doesn't really matter because none of what we say matters. Though I am pretty sure Jason Kidd reads MadsMoneyball.com.
I believe it's the balance of I'm so fucking mad at the Mavs. You can have a snack in just a minute. I'm talking
just a minute. Yeah. Wait, snacks can wait. I had to do that in game. My son comes up to me.
So the fact that I'm even on here is a miracle.
You're nuts.
So, yes, I am absolutely nuts. Yes, you can drink that. Yep, you can drink that. I don't know what it is, but you can drink
It's
it.
beer. She's having a beer. You got to get that during the show. It's good. We're all good.
They actually like Luka, so that's great.
That helps.
I'll go ahead and get to my points, if you call it that. What do you think's wrong with Luka? Is he hurt? Like, is he in his head? Because he's not right, and you could see it from game one. And he's not assertive. He's playing much better defensively, but if we have to rely on Luka's defense to win games, then I'm sorry, that's not going to work. What do you think's wrong?
I mean, I think in games 1 and 2 he was just bad, and I think today he was hurt. But he recognized it in the sense of he stopped taking bad threes and he drove a little more. But if he's hurt enough to where they I don't know. We've talked about this a lot. If he's hurt, I don't think taking him out is the answer, largely because it's just like I think you're asking Kyrie to do way too much. And I don't think that's fair to him, even though I do think he could actually make it work for a game. I just don't want to be I don't want that to be the thing. I don't want to look back and go, man, if Luka could have played. I think they have to be a little bit more judicious in how Luka is used if he's hurt. That could be part of it. More initiation from Kyrie, more pushing the ball from Luka. Like you could see him. A couple of callers have mentioned this, like the look aheads where he's just not doing it. He needs to do it. Try it. Like he only had 3 turnovers today. Like I don't know.
It's off to me. It's like we talk about Luka, and everyone remembers the last 2 series against the Clippers. He's averaging 34, 10, and 10. It's like he's below his season averages for this series.
And that happens in the playoffs, but his shooting is just so poor right now because the 3-point looks that he's getting are fine. They're just fine. I know they piss me off, but when they're that short, it's not good.
Yeah. He's just missing. And I don't know. So start of the game, who do you put, and we don't have to put blame on anybody because sometimes you just come out and you shit the bed. It's just what it is. But the fact that the 2 games Kawhi has not played, we shat the bed. What do you put that on? Like, do we think
they're both afternoon games? That's part of it. And the Mavericks have looked bad in afternoon games all year.
Noon game in the playoff? I get it. Regular season different, but this is the playoffs. We've played this team 3 times.
Well, that's where I wish there would be a bit of an institutional, like, hey, let's run a bread and butter easy play for Kyrie Irving to get him two solid looks in the first 8 minutes of the game. And if they don't go down and you're happy, because Luka only took 6 shots in the first quarter, which feels down for him. I mean, the Mavericks are just bad. Everything was bad in that first quarter. It's like Kyrie went over 3. It was frustrating to watch.
Like the Clippers weren't taking good shots. They were hitting tough shots. Like, what are we supposed to do?
I mean, that was essentially the difference in the first quarter. The Clippers were 8 of 11. The Mavericks were 0 of 7. And, like, that's 21 points, and the Mavericks were
different there. That's it.
So, I don't know. If you feel like if you walk away from this game and your thought is, I still think the Mavericks can win these next 2 games, I don't entirely I understand that point of view. I think there's like game tape to back it up because it's like if Luka has a mediocre offensive performance instead of blah, they might win. They really might because like Kyrie was on his game, but it's like you go through the rest of the guys, and this is where the previous caller's point. A couple of people talking about how like Kidd has shortened the bench. He's had to because nobody else has really showed up. I mean, it's bleak if you're looking outside. Like I'm going back to see how many bench points the Mavericks had today. The Mavericks had, let's see here, they had 13 bench points because Derek Lively was off that bench. But you get 2 points from Green and 3 points from Kleber, and that's only 4 shots between the 2 of them. Like it's brutal. The Mavericks are playing 7.5 guys, and when if you're not getting at least double digits, I mean the scoring wasn't too bad. PJ Washington was a little off today. That's fine, but Derek Jones Jr. made it up for him. Gafford was kind of a problem. They just need Luka needs to shoot 50%. Like that's just I hate to be that like boil it down, but that's what needs to happen.
Yeah. And you know what kind of adds insult to injury? And I know defensively it probably wouldn't have helped, but if THJ is catching those open shots instead of a PJ or a Derek Jones Jr., do they go down?
Yeah. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, my man, thanks for hanging out. All right.
Cheers, man. Yeah, I'm going to go tend to 3 children who are wanting me to put them to bed. So
good luck. Survive in advance. Talk soon.
Appreciate it. Yep.
All right, then we're coming back. We have a long. He hasn't been up here all year, probably because he's hosting his own podcast. Because I encouraged him to. Tyler, what's going on, man?
Kirk, what's up, dude? It's been a minute.
Long time. What's going on, man? Where have you been, and then why are you joining now?
Well, I mean, I've been, like you said, hosting my own pod, so that's been a trip in itself. But it's been a lot of fun. I'm glad you kind of pushed me in that direction. It's been a blast. So
Good. I'm glad.
I've really enjoyed it. And then why I'm here, I mean, come on, man. This is a game that they absolutely should have lost when you just look at the box score. The Clippers had 5 dudes shoot over 1 3, and all of them shot above 50% from 3. The Mavs had 6 dudes shoot more than 1 3, and they had 1 dude, or actually 2. I'm sorry, shout out to Derrick Jones Jr. They had 2 shoot above 50%, or actually above 20%. PJ Washington was 1 of 5, and Luka was 1 of 9. So it's like they should have lost this game. It just makes it more of a punch in the nuts if they come all the way back, they do the whole exercise, and then just to get it snatched at the end because of some, quite frankly, ridiculous shot making by the Clippers. That's just tough. I mean, it just is. But, I'm not as a whole too terribly concerned. I still think they can win this series. But, I guess my main question is, like, what everybody expects the quote-unquote Luka game to come. What happens if it doesn't? Like, I don't know if they can overcome not having a Luka game in a series.
I don't have an answer for this, and I'm sorry. I just also read a tweet at the exact time you were finishing from my Twitter friend Jazz the Terrible, and I'm just going to say it out loud. There was a picture on the internet from, I want to say it was gosh dang it, why is his name slipping my mind? He's a Mavericks podcaster that has the long hair and is really, really funny. What is wrong with me?
Slightly biased?
Slightly biased. Sorry, his handle was escaping me, but he posted a picture of a bunch of people at the bar after Mavs game 3 doing like the lively pose, and she tweeted that. I'm sorry, we're 2 hours into a podcast. I don't really care at this point. This is too funny to not read. She said, where to go? The picture of all the white people doing the PJ pose is what cursed us. I'm sorry. Oh God, that's just the yeah. I mean, I think if you want to take anything away from this game, you can kind of find something to take away. If you want to be despondent, I get it. If you want to be hopeful because the Clippers shot a gajillion %, I get that too. I am. You guys know me. When I am mad, I am like spitting mad. And the only thing that really, really made me mad about this game was reading. Was reading like the like I don't care about kids contract. Like talking about that in the playoffs makes me fucking furious. So
yeah, that was bad timing for that article about.
No, the article is pretty good because the Mavericks are in a good spot, but it's like a jinx. Where it's like, look at how good we are, and then we lose.
It never fails, truly.
And if you guys don't know what article we're talking about, Tim McMahon put out a nice piece. It's a good piece, informative, lots of good quotes from Mavericks people on the record. That never happens about kind of how the Mavericks are built for the long haul, and I'd agree with that. So
I was about to say it's not wrong. It's just a bad day for it to come out.
That's right. All right. Well, you got anything else for us, my man?
I don't. I'll try to be more active. I've been listening and watching the pods all year. It's just, life happens. I hadn't moved to a new job, so I'll try to be more active.
Hey, it's okay. We just like, I got a friend of mine, his name's Spike Eskin, and he does the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. And he's been at this for like 10 years, and they do like live shows, and they're crazy. They have all these fans, and it's like every now and again I'll look. It's like, oh, we had 25,000 people listen to our podcast this month. That's not great. And he messaged me back, and he said, "Stop being a fucking idiot. You could fill a basketball arena with the number of people who listen to your show." And that's it's like, and even on these live shows, like it says right now, we got 233 people for here listening on YouTube live. And it's like, that could fill an audience if we were to do a live show. And it's like, that's true. It's like, just knowing people listen to this and enjoy the community. That's all I really want out of this. Even though I do appreciate the beer money, or as Josh and I have stopped calling it, we now call it daycare money.
There you go.
Tyler, you have yourself a good day. We'll talk soon. I hope to see you Wednesday night.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right. Guys, head on over to MavsMoneyball.com in the coming days. I have just checked our Slack. We have like 4 people turning in post-game comments ranging all across the spectrum of people who are, we have 20-ish writers, and we have people who feel all sorts of different ways about the game, and I encourage them all to write their feelings down. And so that will be happening. Thanks so much for hanging out with here on a Sunday night. We will be back on Wednesday. I don't know, maybe I'll see if I can find somebody to do something Monday or Tuesday to hold you over. Everybody be good. Have a great week, and go Mavs.